gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport? It is Izubee Charles, and good morning to you all. It is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us on Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Steven Wagner as we break down the news of the day. Steven, it's us young guys today. No Matt and Gary. They're still sleeping. How we feeling?
First off, I'm not sure, what this says about Matt and Gary as our superiors, thinking that, hey, great idea. Let's give this show to a couple of 20-something-year-olds. That sounds like a fantastic idea. And for whoever it was in the YouTube comments that said that I'm turning into the next Matt Shodell, I want to say you are very wrong. I look way better than Matt Shodell. But anyway, I guess we're in charge now, so I guess that makes you the new Gary and I'm the new Matt. So I guess I'll do my best Matt impression, and I'll be cranky and abrasive and grouchy and do the best job that I can to get kicked off this show so I can start sleeping in.
All righty. On that note, let's get things started. First up this morning in our Miami Hurricanes news, the men's basketball team was well represented in the ACC postseason honors yesterday. Isaiah Wong won Player of the Year, Miami starting guard. Jordan Miller was on the second team. And Miami forward Norchad Omier was on the third team. We have an awesome story on the website about that, so make sure you go check that out. The men's team also climbed up to the number 14 rankings after defeating Pitt in the ACC regular season title, and we have an update on that as well. Also, Gary's not here, but make sure to check out his column on the Miami's men's hoops teams as they prepare for ACC play. Gary takes a look at, the potential of this team and, some things that they really have to work on if they look to become a real contender for that ACC title in the NCAA tournament. I know, Steven, you're a big basketball guy, UT alum. Just what are your thoughts on this Hurricanes team heading into the postseason? What do you think their ceiling is?
All right, I'm gonna say some things that are not going to be popular because, like I said, I'm trying to do my best Matt impression. But this is what's going to happen. Miami is going to go further in the NCAA tournament than they are in the ACC tournament. I think something upsetting is going to happen in the ACC tournament. I think that they're going to get a wake-up call because you look at the ACC this year, they are not fantastic up at the top. Duke, North Carolina, Syracuse, Louisville, all being down. That hurts the league because these conferences are judged by how good are your blue bloods, how good are you at the top. And it's like this across all sports. If Wake Forest was dominating the ACC year in and year out, and Clemson, Florida State, and Miami were consistently struggling, we would look at the ACC and we would say, hey, the ACC is not a very good football conference. We did the exact same thing with the Pac-12 whenever USC was way down. And we haven't really had an opportunity to do this with the Big Ten, but with the Big 12, whenever Oklahoma has been down, we've looked at the Big 12 and said, oh man, the Big 12 is down this year. That year that they had Oklahoma State and Baylor playing in their Big 12 championship game. And so the ACC itself in basketball, I think, is a little bit down this year, but we still have a lot of potential in these teams. Keep in mind, North Carolina, they are playing for their tournament lives. They have absolutely nothing to lose. At this point, honestly, it kind of feels like one of these things where if they don't get to the ACC championship game, I think North Carolina probably ends up missing the tournament. So that is an incredibly desperate team with an unbelievably high ceiling. They went to the Final Four last year. They were 15 minutes away from being national champions. They brought back 4 out of their 5 starters. And this year, they never really figured it out in the postseason, but they've got nothing to lose right now, and we know what their ceiling can be. North Carolina is dangerous. Duke is still Duke. They're a little bit down this year, but Duke is still Duke. Miami, fortunately, kind of had their number whenever they played them at the Watsco Center, and Duke, quite frankly, I think got lucky whenever they played up in Cameron Indoor. Louisville is terrible. Syracuse with Jim Boeheim, I never really trust them. Boston College, much improved. Pitt, that's a scrappy team who can really beat anyone. And so I really think there's a good chance that we see Miami win one game and then get bounced in the ACC tournament. I think that maybe they have a little bit of that regular season championship hangover, and I think it's going to kind of serve as a wake-up call. I think they'll end up getting a 4 seed in March Madness, and then I think they're going to be a Sweet 16 team. I think that they're going to get this really sobering wake-up call during the ACC tournament that's going to open their eyes this freaking wide and make them go, holy crap, we are human. Just because we won that ACC regular tournament championship, that doesn't mean a thing now that we're into the postseason. Because if you don't win now, you go home. Simple as that. And so I think that Miami's going to end up being a Sweet 16 team, which I think is kind of exactly where they should be, quite frankly. I mean, you look at where they've been in the AP poll for, really like the last month or so. They've kind of hung out sort of between that like 14 to 18 range. And that to me feels pretty accurate. That to me feels, about like where they should be, considering that they've had a couple of bad losses, considering that they had a horrible home loss to a Florida State team that I think finished the regular season with single-digit wins. So this is a team that has a really high ceiling, but quite frankly, they also have kind of a low floor. And so I think, it's never as bad as people say it's going to be. It's never as good as people say it's going to be. So I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And that, to me, is going to make Miami a Sweet 16 team.
Yes, I have to agree with you with the ACC thing. This year, they've had some questionable losses, coming to Georgia Tech, the Florida State game. So I feel like in the ACC tournament, when teams are fighting for their, NCAA tournament life, you see, teams pull out all the stops. And we've seen Miami struggle against the lower tier ACC teams. So that's definitely going to be something to watch out with the ACC tournament starting up this week. Also, we're going back out to Green Tree after this show wraps up. Myself, Gary, and Matt to tune in to day 2 of spring practice. We also will have news and notes from practice, as well as interviews and feedback from both offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson and Lance Guidry. So make sure to stay tuned on the site for that later this morning. There was also plenty of recruiting news. Steven had the chance to catch up with 4-star Eds King Joseph Edwards, and he gave an update about his recent visit to Miami. Steven, after talking to King Joseph, what were your impressions and his thoughts from the visit this weekend?
Yeah, I really don't think it could have gone much better. King Joseph, he was a guy who, quite frankly, didn't really have him very high on my radar. I thought he was kind of a guy, for whatever reason, that really didn't have a ton of interest in Miami. I talked to him, and it was very immediately apparent, no, I really, really like the Canes. And this is a kid who, by all means, had a really good visit this weekend. Miami made a good impression on him. The staff has been really aggressive with him. They're constantly trying to push for him. He really liked Jason Taylor being promoted to the co-defensive lines coach, replacing Rod Wright after he left for the Houston Texans. And, the Jason Taylor thing, it's really having the immediate effect that we thought it was going to, that idea of these defensive linemen being able to be coached by a Hall of Famer. This is what they want at a school like Miami. They need to see a guy who is going to coach them, who's been at the level that they want to be at, who can show you, hey, I've played in the NFL for however many years. I was a defensive player of the year. I ended up being a Hall of Famer. I was an All-American in college. I can show you how to be all of these things. And that's something that's really appealing to King Joseph Edwards. He loved the love that he felt from Miami, and Miami made a pretty good impression on his mom as well. His mom plays a really big role in his recruitment. And he's said that whatever school he ends up deciding to go to, him and his mom are going to need to be on the same page about it. They're going to need to agree that, yeah, this is the school that he wants to go to. His mom's really high on Miami. She likes Coach Cristobal a lot. She also really likes the school more generally. She likes the idea of a small private school. I think me and Izubee talked about this the other weekend. For as massive of a brand as Miami is, this huge national brand, at its core, Miami at the end of the day really is kind of a small private school in Coral Gables in Southern Florida. And that was something that I definitely, got a feeling for this weekend. And that was something that it seems like King Joseph and his mom kind of got a feeling for this weekend as well. And that's appealing to his mother. She likes the idea of him going to this small private school with these small class sizes. And by all means, it seems like he's in pretty good shape, or the Hurricanes are in pretty good shape with him. He's definitely got interest there.
And staying on kind of the defensive side of the ball, I got a chance to catch up with a few guys from California that Miami recruiting, starting with T.A. Cunningham, whose younger brother TK also picked up an offer from the University of Miami as well. I spoke with TA about the visit. We have it on our site. Make sure to check that out. But kind of to sum things up with TA, he was really, really impressed with what he saw from the University of Miami today. And kind of going off what Steven said about having a Hall of Famer and Jason Taylor coach him, that's something that, most of the defensive line guys I spoke with this past weekend was really excited about, saying, hey, this guy Jason Taylor's been to the NFL. He has a gold jacket. Why not go play in Miami? Why not go learn under the best? And that was kind of the same tone and message that I got from every defensive end or defensive lineman during that junior day. I also caught up with Aiden Breland out of California. It feels like Mario brought in a Brinks truck of, big California guys out from the West Coast and just had them all there. He's a 4-star 2024 defensive lineman out of modern day California, the powerhouse out there on the West Coast. He was really impressed with what Mario Cristobal and the rest of the staff had to say. Mario Cristobal was actually his first offer when he was at Oregon back in 8th grade, and they continue to build that relationship. So make sure to check out the story on Aiden Breland. I really like what I saw from him in person and on tape. Big physical guy and just moves people on that defensive line. And finally, the third update that we have from a California guy is coming out of St. John Bosco and 4-star linebacker Kingston Viliama Asa. He's telling me that after this visit, he spoke with Coach Derek Nicholson, saying, he knew Nicholson back in Louisville and how with him going to Miami, keeping up that communication, that really meant a lot to him. And just his biggest takeaway was from Miami is just how personable the staff was, how they just showed him love, how they treated him like family, even though this was his second time coming down. He just felt that real connection with Miami and looks to come back. So make sure to check out our 3 stories on the California kids and, Mario Cristobal building that pipeline out there on the West Coast. Switching to the offense side of the ball, Steven, you were able to speak with 4-star tight end Dylan Mesman, who just added a Miami offer this week. What were your impressions of Dylan after you spoke with him and his thoughts on the Hurricanes?
Yeah, so kind of a consistent thing that I keep on finding with all these kids that I talk to is they all want to consider Miami, which is, exactly what you want if you're really trying to establish this big national brand. You want to have that impact where, Mario Cristobal calls you and you immediately go, okay, I know I haven't heard from them yet, but let's at least give them a chance. Well, in this case, it wasn't Mario Cristobal who called him. It was Stephen Field who called him. But Dylan's another kid who's at least, maintaining some basic level of interest in the Hurricanes. Michigan State and Minnesota are really up there on his RPM predictions list. Now Miami's showing some interest in him. They're kind of starting off early, showing the love. I think that they still probably have a little bit of a ways to go, but I'm going to be really curious to see who they end up taking in this year's tight end class, because keep in mind with bringing in Jackson Carver and Riley Williams from last season, now I'm really starting to wonder, okay, this tight end room is going to clearly be loaded for quite some time in the future. And I was asking myself, in this recruiting class, do they even want to take a tight end, quite frankly, with as full as that tight end room is going to be? And by all means, it looks like they're still going to pursue the tight end position pretty hard. I think they've got I think it's somewhere around a dozen tight end offers out there. And of those, I think, like 7 or 8 are like 3- and 4-star guys. They're really going after some pretty elite tight ends in this year's class too. And so that to me also has me kind of wondering, what kind of personnel plans Mario has moving forward. Does he see using a lot of 2 tight end sets? Does he see maybe having some 3 tight end packages? Does he, kind of want to do some stuff that Lincoln Riley does at USC and the stuff that he used to do at Oklahoma, where you see a lot of 10 and 11 personnel type formations, but with 2 tight ends on the field instead. So a lot of the stuff that the Kansas City Chiefs do, quite frankly, where they load up a tight end. They try to make tight end the most versatile position on the field, and they just use these guys in a variety of ways. And so I'm really curious to see what Cristobal and Stephen Field kind of grand plan is for the tight end position, because between Riley Williams and Jackson Carver that they got last year, whoever they end up taking this year, and they're putting out a lot of offers, and Stephen Field has been a really relentless recruiter at the tight end position. I want to know what their long-term plans are.
Yeah, that's something I have to agree with you with that tight end position. I know when we did our preview of kind of the positions headed into spring practice, I felt like tight end was one of the positions that Miami just had, a boatload of guys in with, Dylan McCormick coming in, Dominic Morelli, all the guys from last year, Jackson Carver, Riley Williams, and Khalil Brantley. Obviously, I have to give actually credit to Gary for calling that. I think 2 days before Khalil Brantley transferred out, Gary's like, I'm thinking this guy's leaving, but with that position, it feels like they're handing out a lot of offers to different guys. So it's interesting to see, what they're looking for in that position in that 2024 class. And also, kind of to wrap up the show, Steven, we know you had your fun day Sunday at the Under camp, and we have some more intel and plenty of information from Miami targets on that. Just a quick wrap up with that, Steven. Just what would be your biggest takeaway from that Under Armour camp in Orlando?
It's kind of hard to really pinpoint just one really big key takeaway because of a really, really productive outing. Getting to go up there, Jeremiah Smith and Josiah Trader were both up there. Neither of them participated, but they were both there, and I was able to talk with both of them. We were able to kind of talk about, why they decided to take this, what seemed like sort of a hush-hush visit up to FSU this weekend after we'd heard about Jeremiah that he had a track meet this weekend, and Trader's like the hardest person in the world to talk to unless you're going to be able to be there right with him in person. So that dude just kind of goes MIA until you see him at something, and that's like, oh hey man, this is my chance to go ahead and grab him. But it seems like Miami's in pretty good shape with quite a few guys. I think Miami's in really good shape. With Chance Robinson, LaWayne McCoy, a kid who Miami, really wants to commit to kind of get that ball rolling in the 2024 class. He really performed pretty well. TJ Alford, a 2025 linebacker, he took home the linebacker MVP award. Ricky Knight III, his stock, just keeps on rising. He got a little bit banged up, and so his day kind of ended a little bit early. But he's a 3-star cornerback from the Benjamin School, who's been a Miami priority for a little while now. He was previously unranked, but really ever since he had a really impressive showing at the Junior Day Combine, or excuse me, at the All-American Bowl Combine at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. He had a really impressive showing there, and he's steadily kind of continued to pick up offers. It seems like it's going to kind of be a two-way battle between Miami and Florida State out there on that end. Stacey Gage, also another guy. We haven't really been totally sure what Miami's level of interest in him is going to be, but he's hearing pretty regularly from Tim Harris Jr., the new running backs coach, and probably the biggest one of all that I heard from was Jonathan Daniels, the number 9 overall recruit in the 2024 class. He said Miami is one of those schools that he's interested in. But what kind of was curious to me was it seems like Miami really hasn't made a hyper concerted effort to really make that, all hands on deck, massive push for this kid who happens to be a top 10 national recruit in the state of Florida in a year where, quite frankly, Florida talent's a little bit down. I think they've got the 4th most kids in the on 300, or excuse me, they're the state with the 4th most kids in the on 300 behind, I think, Texas, California, and Georgia. After that, it's Miami, and that's just something that we haven't really been used to. It's definitely an anomaly for this season. But in a year where Florida talent is down more generally, Miami has a top 10 recruit up in Pensacola, which I get is that's kind of getting into Alabama and Florida State recruiting country up there. But you've got a top 10 in-state recruit who says, yeah, I'm interested in Miami. I kind of like what, Coach Mirabal, Coach Cristobal, I kind of like their developmental resume. I kind of like the way that they've recruited. I like the atmosphere at their games. I like all this stuff. It's intriguing to me. It kind of makes me scratch my head and wonder why Miami hasn't really made that massive push for this guy. Quite frankly, I really don't know. But he said, yeah, I'm definitely interested. I want to get down to Miami. I want to see Coral Gables. And right now, the only visit that he has set in stone for the spring is he's going to be at Florida State this coming weekend, I think this coming Saturday. And after that, He's not totally certain what the rest of his schedule is going to look like, but he said he does want to get down to Miami. That much we know.
Awesome. Thank you there for that, Steven. Well, everyone, that is all that we have for this episode of Good Morning CaneSport. I think me and Steven did pretty well, taking the spot of Matt and Gary. So if you did like this episode of Good Morning CaneSport, make sure to leave a big like. And we enjoy reading all your comments. So fill up those comments with the funny jokes and your responses to reactions, I should say, of the video today. For Steven Wagner, I'm Izubee Charles, and thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.